Relationship Reflections Podcast. I'm Rosado. Today I have two awesome guests. I'm so glad you're here. It's Janet and Austin.
Hi.
Hello.
I have them here today because they are engaged.
Woo.
Yay! But what I love about them is that they're engaged and they're strong Christians, but kind of unconventional, and I'll let them get into the story so that you can hear why. So it's common that people end up like dating really quickly and then getting married really quickly, but that is not your story. So tell us a little bit about how you guys met.
So we met 4 years ago at our old church, so not where we are at now. And we were just friends. We both had actually just gotten out of other relationships, and we were just like friends. It's funny because we didn't actually even find each other attractive. Like, we weren't like, he doesn't even remember like meeting me for the first time.
I don't remember meeting her. We both have different memories of our first meeting each other.
So we like did not have the intention of like dating when we first met, and then just kind of became friends. And a couple months into it, like we kind of realized that we were having feelings for each other. And then in May of 2018, yes, we started dating, and here we are. We got engaged in September of 2021. So it was 3.5 years into dating.
3.5 years into dating, you got engaged. Okay, what is the first memory of meeting for you? And what's the first memory of meeting for you?
Okay, so my first memory, we were at our friend's cabin in the summer, and I remember we were out on one of like the big things that are out like in the lake, you know, that you can stand on. We were all out there, and I was like, who is this guy? And then what is yours?
My first memory was actually I was still talking to the other person I was with, and we were at some ice cream place. And she pulled up because they were both friends.
Yeah.
They were both friends at the time. So she pulled up and said hi. And I guess that was like a month or so after the cabin story. But yeah, it was funny because I don't have any recollection of the cabin or her.
Well, and we were at Big Boys that one time, and we were like, I got waffles and you got hash browns. We sat next to each other, and you don't remember that.
She remembers that. I don't remember that at all. Not
it's just funny.
I remember going to Big Boy. I don't remember her being there.
Yeah, so we weren't on each other's radar at all.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Sometimes people are like hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so how you guys were friends. Walk me through that, and then when did you decide, like, okay, I want to date you?
So we were at the same church, so I think we kind of just knew baseline. We at least had the same values, interests. We have seen each other. I feel like the majority of our friendship was honestly just texting and calling. It wasn't like hanging out or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then I just realized I felt really comfortable with him. We would like just text about really funny stuff. I was just like vulnerable. And then I kind of like started having feelings, and
she caught him first, 100%.
I said, who initiated the
100%.
conversation?
Oh wait, no, you initiated. Wait, I want to tell the story. Okay, so he was like posted something. This is when Twitter was like a big thing, and like subtweeting was like a big thing. And he like subtweeted just something sad. It was like deep, and like again, we didn't really know each other, and I just messaged him on Twitter and I was like, hey, you good? He's like, actually, can I like call you? And he didn't even have my number, and he calls me, and we're just like, he's just talking to me. He like just went through something hard, and so that's how we got each other's numbers. But yes, we were just texting after that, and then became friends. I definitely caught feelings first, but I didn't like say it, but he could definitely tell. So then when I actually told him, he's like, yeah, I've known.
Okay, Austin, tell us that story.
Yeah, it was she's not very good at hiding things.
I'm still not.
It's just so obvious. It was like, I'd say...
I didn't like throw myself at you, but I'm also just like, if I like somebody, I want to show my love to you. You know, I didn't love him at that point, but like...
You were in love with him.
Yeah.
I was going to say it was probably like a couple of weeks difference between you liking me and then me liking you back, I want to say.
But when I told you that I liked you, you liked me at that point.
100%.
Yeah.
So you had kind of already noticed, but then you didn't say it till later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, awesome. So you guys date. How long? 3 years?
3.5, but by the time we got engaged.
So 3.5 years. That's super uncommon in the Christian culture to not be married and like.
And we did long distance.
Okay, let's talk about that. How did you navigate through dating for a long period of time and the pressures of kind of like, hey, get married, purity? How did you navigate through that?
Do you want to say something first?
Yeah, sure. I always knew that I could never see myself like dating someone and getting married within a year. That's not who I am. Like I'm a very introverted person, so I like take time to get to know people and like to trust them. So like that was like never on my radar. Just that whole standard of getting like there's nothing. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with like getting married within a year.
Yeah, everyone has their own preference.
Yeah, I just knew that wasn't what I could ever do. That's just like a lot of pressure and just a lot of time to get to know someone like at that level.
Yeah.
But like to spend the rest of in my eyes, it's like you taking X amount of time to get to know someone to spend the rest of your life with them. So like why rush that or why push that on a timeline? It's like when it feels right, it's right essentially. So I don't think there's really a right timeline per se, but yeah, it's just whatever really feels like for that person.
And I was really young when we started dating. I was 18.
Yeah.
I just started going to college. Like, I was figuring out a completely new area of my life. Like, anybody that has gone from high school to college knows, like, you become a different person, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, so he has been with me through that huge transformation period, and we've, like, still made it, like, through that, which I think is, like, a huge thing, because we've learned how to, like, change and grow with each other, which is, like, a really big thing, not expecting somebody to stay, like, where they are. So I think him being gracious with me changing really, like, helped with that. But there were also, like, breaks in between. We took, one was like kind of not our choice, which is a different story. And then the other one was like our choice. It was like it was actually really crazy because it was in 2019 to 2020. And it was only for like 3 months. We like knew we wanted to get back together, but we were just like, we need some time to like figure things out.
That's uncommon too.
And then we got together, we like talked about it, got back together, and then the week later everything happened with COVID and stuff broke out. So we were like, oh my gosh, the Lord is like working. Like he did something, you know, like, cause if I honestly,
Was it the week after that?
it was a week after that. And I just like have thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know if we would have gotten back together if like we would have been broken up over COVID, because then we wouldn't have been able to see each other or anything like that. Like, I mean, if it was meant to be, it was like, we would have made it happen, you know, but I think it's just interesting to think about. So the Lord's timing was just really cool in that. But going back to long distance, figuring out communication was a really, really big thing. And I think we still
I feel like it was
go
more
ahead.
so the long distance thing was more so a challenge for you just because you were coming right out of high school. So like you only knew.
You had done long distance before. I
I've done
hadn't.
long distance before, so like I like somewhat knew. I mean, obviously every relationship's different, but I knew somewhat what to expect. And it's like you can't obviously see the person every day or X amount of days a week like you used to, or talk to them 24/7.
Yeah, it was
So
harder for me.
Yeah, it was definitely harder for her because she's coming right out of high school, like used to seeing people every single day. So that was definitely an adjustment. I mean, it works. Like I feel like we did a reasonably decent job at it
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're here.
Obviously, you made your hearing.
We made it work.
What advice would you give to people that are dating now? I feel like right now there is a culture of kind of instant gratification, and if you don't get what you want, and so even in the long distance, that's adapting, that's finding ways to navigate through things. I love what you said, Janet, earlier, that you guys got an opportunity to grow together because you become different people the longer you're with somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what advice, I guess, would you give to people as they're dating on how to navigate kind of through life?
You want to go first? Are we just talking dating or dating long distance?
Ooh, anything you want.
Okay.
That's a good clarifier. How long were you guys long distance for?
You didn't move
Since I
out
moved out here.
here until June of 2021. So 3 years.
The majority of our relationships.
But over the summer when I would come home, because we came from the same hometown, so over the summer I would come home from college. So we'd be together for like 3 months, not long distance. And then COVID happened. I came home. Our families were the only bubbles we were a part of. So it wasn't like long distance for 3 straight years. There were gaps.
The majority of it's been long distance up to this point, though, I'd say. Now I'd say it's 50-50, but for a long period of time, it was like the majority of it was long distance.
Do you think that helped you? Like get to know each other from a heart position?
I think it
helped and hindered us.
When we were together, we had to be really intentional with our time, obviously, because it was like really limited.
Yeah.
So from that aspect, yeah. But then again, on that same point, it's like we're not together for like in the same like location for a while. So it was like when we were, it was kind of like not a culture shock, but it was just like it would always be like the first little bit. It would always be rough just because wouldn't have seen each other for like
Honest, if we're being honest, yeah.
a few weeks. So
The
it's like,
first day we would spend together, we were like
Awkward?
It was not awkward, but we were just like we were both just kind of sassy with each other. Like it was just like we had to adjust. It was just because he would come into my world, or I would go into his world.
and we're just used to being there on our own.
Yeah.
Like physically on our own.
And just like being in the same city together now, going to the same church, serving at the same, it's just completely different. Like, so when he moved out here, it was a totally different sorry, this is not answering your
This
question.
is good. No, this is good. I'm listening.
So when he moved out here, it took us about a month to, like, the first month was a little rocky to, like, just figure out, okay, we have to, like, make time throughout the week for each other now, whereas, like, when we were long distance, it was just, like, okay, like, I'm setting this weekend aside for you. So me, I'm a super big planner, time management, like, when my schedule gets messed up, I get a little stressed. So when he moved out here and was like, hey, let's hang out, like, today, like, randomly, I was like, I can't do that. That's not a part of my, like, schedule.
Really?
So I had to,
And
like,
you're not like that.
No.
No.
I'm like the most go with the flow chill.
Yes.
It's hilarious because we're like exact
we're
opposites.
complete
in that-
opposites in everything.
In that aspect, it's like she's super rigid. She's got a plan for literally everything. I'm just like,
I have like 5 planners.
I'm like, if you want to do this today, yeah. If no, okay. I'm just.
Yeah,
just
so it
go
was
with
an
the flow,
adjustment.
chill. Yeah.
But
That's really common. I'm noticing that a lot of our opposites, they say opposites attract, but literally a lot of the people I've interviewed that have had successful relationships, they're learning how to merge their lives in these different dynamics. Yeah, and it sounds like you guys have kind of navigated through obstacles of just life together. Okay, what advice would you give to somebody navigating through obstacles of life together?
It's a process. It's always going to be a process. Like there's no end. Like navigating life, there's no like end goal. I mean, there's an end goal, but there's no end point. It's like you're always going to. There's no point where in a relationship or I'd say even a marriage where it's like, okay, we're done growing.
that's good.
You're always going to grow. So I don't think that marriage should be looked at as like a end point for like a relationship or growing.
That's good.
It's like why? Because then you're just setting yourself up for failure. It's like you get married.
Yeah, marriage is the beginning.
It's like then what? It's like no, it's just a process. It's another step in the process. It's like you're just gonna keep growing.
Yeah.
So
Together.
good.
So wise over here.
It's just like just don't like put an end goal on it. Just don't put an end goal on like a process of growing. It's like you're going to continuously grow.
Like marriage shouldn't be like your dream or your end goal.
That's real.
It was actually fun. This is a side point. I will get back to my advice, but I'm the one going off on tangents. Usually it's you. Literally, I think it was the week before he proposed, I put out an Instagram post of us, and because we had just gone to 3 weddings, 4 weddings, that whole summer, and everybody was like, when are you getting married, blah, 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 and I was like, guys, like, just stop, like, I don't know, like, don't ask me, I'm not the person that knows this, and so I put out an Instagram post, I was like, we are not in a rush to get married, like, we love each other, we're like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Week later, he proposes, and then my next post is us getting engaged. I was like,
It was 3 days before.
3 days. Okay.
And you had no idea.
No, I had no idea. And it was just like a testimony to the fact I had no idea what was happening. So,
And a testimony to the fact that you were content, you were happy, you were at a place of just being grateful for what you had.
Yeah.
You weren't rushing to the next deadline. I actually think this is a good transition, but I want to give you space if you want to give your advice.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, for going through obstacles of life together and, like, growing together, like, first, like, always expect the best, like, out of the person and not the worst. Like, we've been through, like, a lot of hard things. Like, you had a lot of family members pass away from COVID in the span of just a few weeks.
Wow.
So, like,
Sorry.
learning how to, you know, help him grieve, like, in that, and, like, okay, I can't expect him to be perfect, like, through that situation, just expecting the best out of him, supporting him, like, in that, him just supporting me all through college. Like, I would go through seasons where things were really, really, really hard, and, like, I was super stressed, and he still loved me well through that. So just learning, like, how to care for that person and, like, be flexible with them as, like, they change. And I've noticed that throughout our entire relationship, I think it's cool how the Lord works, in, like, how whenever I'm weak, he's in a stronger position. Whenever he's weaker, I'm in, like, a stronger position to, like, help each other out of that. So not to get discouraged, to be like, oh, he's in a low spot, like, he's not the one, or, like, I need to give up on him. But it's like, no, like I'm gonna help you.
Yeah,
you know.
Can I touch on that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like a lot of the time, marriages or relationship are looked at as 50-50. I don't think, I mean, yeah, in a perfect world they should be. I don't think realistically they're ever 50-50. It's always one person's going to be higher in one aspect than the other. And I feel like that's normal. It's like, that's what you're there for. You're there for to encourage the other person, to bring them up, to lift them up. It's like, that's the whole point of a relationship. It's like, if it's 50-50, what are you learning from the other person? Like, how are you growing from each other? It's like, if, say, one's 60-40 or 70-30. Like, okay, if it's 95-5, there's an issue
problem.
there. Yeah, there's something wrong there.
No.
Exactly. But like 60-40, 70-30, that I feel like is typically normal. And that, I feel like that's how it should be. It's like one person always going to be stronger in certain aspects of life than the other one.
Yeah, and ladies, like, I know in the Christian culture, you're told, like, the man needs to, oh, you're on my hair. The man needs to, like, lead, like, they need to be, you know, ahead of you, like, they need to be the one pulling you, whatever. Like, I disagree. Like, I think that they should, like, whatever, follow biblical standards of, yes, the man is the head of the household. He's leading you in, like, certain areas of life, but there are going to be areas when he struggles. He's not perfect. You know, like, there are going to be times when you need to be spiritually stronger than him and help him out of things. And I just think that was something I struggled with for a while in the Christian culture of, like, oh, he's, like, spiritually weaker than me right now, he must not be the one, or, like, it was never that extent, but I'm being a little dramatic for the sake of, like, telling the story. But just, like, yeah, just make sure you're both, when you're dating at least, focusing just, like, on your spiritual health, like, and not so much worrying about, like, his, like, he's doing his thing. We're not married. I don't need to, like, micromanage, like, your relationship with the Lord. Like, I just need to trust where you're at, be good in my relationship, and then if I'm well enough in my relationship with Jesus, then I'll be able to help him in a hard situation, you know? I don't know if that makes sense.
So good.
So
I think that's so wise. I'm like, and this is funny, my brain is like, okay, disclaimers, like, we're strong Christians, we love the Lord, we want to follow what we believe God says is best for relationships. But there's culture things, so Christian culture that may have some unhealth to it.
Yes.
Or there's an ability to adapt or change. So that's kind of like what we're poking on. But everybody has their own preference or stuff, you know. But I just want to clarify that. So, like, we're not saying, like, hey, don't follow it biblically. Yes.
No, I'm not saying.
No, that's not clear. I'm like,
way to go.
Like, hey, we want to follow the way God says things, but there's some culture things that have been created that aren't. That's not the only way. Like getting married in 3 months or knowing someone is the one. Like, I love that you're saying that hey, like, women are also called your helpmates to each other. I think that's a really good thing to remember.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just speaking from the point of, like, thinking everybody in here is already, like, a strong Christian, so I'm like, you know the baseline, but not everybody does.
Well, and even in the way I love it, even in the way you talk. And that's the thing, I think people are going to listen from all different views, and this is good. So if you're not a Christian, you're listening to it, I'm grateful that you're listening. Okay, transitioning into engagement. Tell us a little bit about that story. How did Austin propose?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's funny because the day I had no idea, like I said, that this was happening, and the day he was proposing, I had an appointment. After the appointment, they told me to take Benadryl so I wouldn't have allergic reaction, and so I go home, take Benadryl. Haven't taken it in years, and I'm like, I'll take 2 just to be safe.
It's the middle of the day, too.
Middle of the day, like it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock probably. And I'm on the phone, like, with my boss, and I'm literally, like passing out while I'm talking to him, like, 'cause I'm so tired. So then I, like, go to sleep. I took, I think, like, almost a 3-hour nap.
That was a long nap.
I just kept falling in and out of sleep. And Austin and I had planned to have, like, a date night that night. So I wake up, it's, like, 4 o'clock. We're getting dinner at, like, 6 or something like that. And I'm like, I'm still so groggy, whatever. So I was just really out of it. I was running late. I was, like, gonna self-tan, didn't get to do that. I was gonna do my hair, didn't have time for that. It was, like, crazy. My nails weren't done. Like, literally nothing.
Like, date night.
I was, like, running late. The traffic was awful. I was so stressed. And then I show up, and Austin's just like, I'll chill. Like, no, there was no, like, sign that he was gonna propose to me. He was just his normal self, like, calming me down. He's like, you look so beautiful, even though I, like, was like, it was a little rough.
Good job.
But yeah, then you can pick up from... You can tell about what you did beforehand, too, and how it helped you that I was so tired all day.
Yeah, so that whole day was the plan for the engagement was there was a park. I forgot the name of the park.
Francis Park.
Francis Park. So the plan was I'd tell her we have a dinner reservation, which we did, but it was like an hour and a half later than she thought it was. So the plan was go to the dinner, but we actually ended up going to the park, walk up there. There was a bouquet of flowers on like a bench, and it was like on a little, because I don't even know.
It was
how
like
to
a
explain it.
ledge, like outlooking like the Grand River.
Oh,
And like it was like
okay.
up these like two big like flights of stairs, and then the ledge is like at the top. If you can like picture that kind of
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
anyways, yeah, no, you're good. So the whole point was to like get her there, but I had to go there beforehand to like, so my parents came early that day to help set up and like help plan things and stuff. And so I had to go there earlier in the day. I was running all around earlier in the day. So it helped that she was passed out because she had no clue where I was. Because we both have each other's locations on just because. And yeah, so
if you weren't like answering me for like an hour, I probably would have been like a little sus and been like, "What are you doing?"
I was
like,
so,
you know.
that whole process, especially getting the ring, was so sketchy. Because I was always afraid she'd look and she'd know where I was and it was ruined. So
because of your location,
Yeah.
and then you don't want to turn it off because that's also
That's even more sus.
yes, and I got the ring on the other side of the state. So I
had
had
no
to be
idea.
driving back and forth. So it was like, I was like just hoping she wouldn't look at the location. She never did. She was clueless.
Yeah, it helped you so
absolutely
hardcore that I literally thought you weren't proposing for another year.
Yeah. The timeline
wasn't, like,
timeline change
suspicious.
helped a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got the ring. Well, I ordered the ring 6 months before I actually proposed, so I had it. I didn't trust myself with it personally, so I left it at the store for like 3.5 months. I had it in my possession for about a month or so. But yeah, so the whole.
it's a beautiful ring. Yes.
I think I did a decent job.
Did you have any say in like the type of ring or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so you guys had
we
discussion.
went to the store and like looked together and
Okay.
things like that. But he knows
I
me.
had
He
ordered
knew what like I liked. He knew the color, the shape, the things. And it's even more gorgeous than I like would have imagined it to be. So.
I had the ring picked out before we went. Us going was already like, it was just for us going was for her because she always wanted to go just look at the rings.
Wow.
What would you have done though if I like tried it on and I was like, that's ugly?
That would have been a bit iffy. That would have been.
Because I never tried it on. I was just like, I think I like that like pear shape. And I was like, I need to try it on to make sure. Anyways, this is totally not on topic. We need to talk about
That's
you
okay.
proposing.
Okay, bringing it back. Proposal. It's a
Yeah.
part of the story. It's a part. This is good.
Do you want me to explain from my view now that they know how you set up?
Yeah,
Or
sure.
do you want to explain?
Okay, I'll just go through it and then you can do. But so essentially, we got to the park. The whole drive there, I was freaking out because the ring box was pretty big. The box that the ring was in was like.
It's like a rectangle one. It's like this big.
Oh.
It's
Yes.
a hefty boy.
So I was like, how am I gonna get this out of my car? How am I gonna hide it from her? And that whole time, I was like.
You were so chill though. Oh wait, there's another funny thing.
You were stressing.
I was, yeah. And on the way there, again, had no clue. And I was like, Austin, we need to talk about something.
Oh.
And he was like, what? And I was like, we need to like start talking about like engagement period and when we're getting married because like I need to figure out if I'm going to re-sign for my lease because they just like asked me. But like it wasn't like
This
because
was
I thought
on the way there.
Literally,
we
as
were
we're
like
pulling into
5
the
minutes
park.
away from the park. It was just really funny.
She brought up. I was like, what
Austin,
the heck
what
are you
were-
gonna do?
How are you? Were you playing cool?
Yeah, in that moment, I was like, what are you gonna say? I was like, no, not now. But it was.
Because at this point,
it was
you
just
asked your
funny.
parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had a conversation with parents, and then your parents are there.
Yeah.
How? Okay.
Yeah, everything was like set. Everything was set.
And she's like, we need to talk about engagement.
I was like, oh no, what now?
It was just really funny.
It wasn't like anything.
It wasn't bad, it was just funny.
It was, yeah. So we got to the park. She was still kind of clueless because I was like, we have a little bit of time. I was like, I lied about the time for the dinner. We still have a little bit. She was still clueless at that point. She had no idea what was going on.
I was still scatterbrained from the day. I was still groggy.
Yeah, so we got to the park. We just kind of walked around for a little bit. Then we walked up
So
to the
beautiful.
spot where it was, and there's roses, a whole bunch of roses on a bench, and there's a note in it.
I'm getting emotional.
And she's still, like, we got there, and she was still like, oh, it's for me?
I
was
literally
like,
asked him that. I was like, are those for me?
I was like, I don't know, look. And there's a note in it. And so she was reading the note. She was, like, looking off. Like,
Okay, but by this point I knew
Yeah.
what was happening and I was like shaking. It took me 5 minutes to read a tiny note because like I was just like, Oh my gosh.
Wait, so when did you know? When you started opening the letter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I knew because I was about to read it out loud to him.
Oh, yeah,
Because I just thought this was like a cutesy thing or whatever. And he's like, you need to turn around and read it. And I was like, oh. Like I do. So then I was like,
You were going to have people behind her?
Yeah.
because I was just like looking out in the water and I was like literally like shaking, and then I like turned around and he like did the thing, got down and he asked me. And I remember I turned around because like so I like turned around and then he proposed, and I did one, oh I can't stand up. I like did one of the things where I was like, oh my gosh, like turned around, he's like, get back over here.
She like, started running away.
I didn't run away, I just turned around because I was like, oh my gosh. Anyways, so yeah, and then he proposed, and then
What'd you say, Austin?
what'd you say? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I literally-
That's so common. I just wanted to know, people talk about their proposal, they're like, I don't even know what I said.
Couldn't tell you.
Like, I didn't even fully read the note. I read it later that day because I was just like, I like totally missed it. I don't remember what he said when he proposed because my adrenaline was so high. I was like shaking like this much, not because I was scared, but just like
trying to put that ring out her face. She was
it's like a one in a lifetime like
out.
moment. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then like his parents came out, my sister came out, and then that was really sweet.
Yeah, it was good. I think it went really good.
Yeah, and then we went out to eat afterward. It was sweet. And the people like around us at the park were like clapping and stuff like that. It was fun.
Yay!
Yeah, it was cute.
Okay, so you guys get engaged.
Yeah.
Yay, good job. And then when were the next conversations about, okay, when are we going to get married, and how long you guys decided for your engagement? What were those conversations like?
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So funny thing, we actually got almost all of our huge vendors out of the way within the first month. I got my dress picked out, we had our date figured out, we had our venue, we had our catering, we had our DJ, we had our photographer.
Wow.
All the things within the first 2 months.
Yeah.
Month to 2 months. So we got it like all knocked out of the way while I was in my last semester of school. You're in school, like it just like all really worked out. We knew that like there was going to be a wedding boom in 2022 because of COVID back up. So I was like, if we want the kind of venue and everything else that we want, we have to do it like now. Otherwise we're not going to get the things we want.
Right.
So yeah, it happened really quickly, like the big stuff. But since then it's like slowly like died down and we've just done things here and there. But do you want to add anything?
It's been fun. Like, I've enjoyed it, the whole process of planning and stuff. Like, I like enjoyed that aspect of it because I know a lot of the time the guys are just like, oh, whatever the girl wants for the wedding. It's like,
Not with him.
I was like, it's my
He's very
How many
opinionated.
months has it been you guys have been engaged?
Got engaged in September, so now it's March.
6.
So you've been engaged for 6 months.
Yeah, so we
And
have
when is
6
the
more
wedding?
months. September.
So you guys, when you got engaged, you were like, we're gonna do this for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like...
That was a no-brainer. It was a year or more.
Yeah.
Why?
Time. Just because it... For me personally, I just didn't want to rush the wedding because it is a big day and it's like, I want it to be how we like it. I don't want to rush the engagement process because that's a whole learning process on itself.
Yeah, it's totally different than dating, and it's
Yeah.
different than marriage.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like you want to enjoy it. I don't think engagement should just be something you rush through. I don't think it should be a waiting period. It's still like you're still growing. There's no pause between like dating and then marriage. It's like engagement. You're still growing with each other.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, very quickly. But yeah, it's I guess the long-term engagement. I want to say. I guess especially nowadays, years longer. We just wanted to enjoy it. We wanted to take our time. Like if say something fell through, like the venue or whatever, like we wanted to have time to be able to fix it and not be scrambling to fix anything. And again, we just weren't in a rush. Like we were
both still. We're not graduating until May, so we wanted time, to plan after, like we were like graduated, So we'll still have 3 or 4 months. Because that's like when a lot of the chaos happens. Is like the first like 2 months before the wedding. So we wanted like that to not be when we were in school.
A lot of people rush this process, and you guys seem to be enjoying seasons and processes. Why? Yeah. What do you think has shaped your mindset to have that different perspective?
For me personally, that's just like, I don't know if something specifically shaped it, because that's just like really how like I said before, I'm like the go with the flow, chill type of person. It's like, I don't like rushing into things right away. I don't like jumping ahead of things. It's like, I like taking things slower, just chilling and relaxing. I think like, And for me personally, it goes back to the point, like, why are you, if you're rushing engagement, I guess for the right reasons, it's like, say, like we have friends who, like, it's like, the girl was, like, Canadian, and she was, like, to get the relationship just for the status of being able to live here and stuff like that. It's like that, okay, that makes sense for why you're rushing an engagement to get married. But if you're rushing it just to be married, just to say so, just, like, let's be honest, for, like, the sexual pleasure of that, because that's, like, why I feel like a lot of Christian couples rush it. It's like, oh, for the big moment. It's like, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. Like, yes, that's good, but if that's the whole reason you're pushing to get married, you're a bit off there.
Yeah.
Because, like, that shouldn't be, like, the whole sole reason why you're rushing to get married.
Yeah. I think going off that point that that's like what a lot of people were telling us when we first got engaged was, like, when we told them we were going to be engaged for a year, they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like, 6 months should be the max that you're engaged. Like, it's going to be so hard. You're going to be so tempted. Like, all of the inputs of those kind of things. And I just think personally, like, if you are Christian, you're waiting till marriage to have sex, like, for the people that are getting married, like, instead of trying to coerce them or force them into, like, getting married sooner, just support them, like, in that period of life, support them so they don't fall into lust and impurity and all of those things, rather than, like, pushing them to do it the way you think is best, you know. So I mean, we've made it 3.5, almost 4 years without it. Like, it was just like, one more year isn't, like, that big of a deal if we're gonna spend the rest of our lives together, you know. So when you just look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's like, I don't know, it just
6 extra months is not gonna kill you.
Yeah, if it's gonna allow us to continue growing, if it's gonna allow us to have a less stressful environment, why would we not just wait another 6 months? Like, it's not that long, like, you know.
That's
I don't know.
so cool. I think there's gonna be people that listen to this and watch it and are like, how have you been able to remain pure? I think, again, during this time frame, and I love this perspective. But yeah, what advice would you give to people about purity? And then what advice or changes have you noticed in engagement? So 2 separate questions, but we'll start with the first one.
So I'll just, like, disclaimer it, like, we're not perfect. Like, we have messed up. Like, we, like, had to learn in the beginning. And I remember hearing this really sweet quote from, like, a friend, and she, like, shared it on Instagram, and I saw it, and it was, the closer you get to Jesus, the more convicted you feel about sin. And I think just as you grow closer to the Lord and you get to know his heart better, like, the more, like, you feel convicted about, like, the lustful things that you're doing, or any kind of sin, pride, whatever, like, it is. So I think that just over time, as we both grew closer with the Lord, it was just like the things we were doing was just kind of like, why are we doing those things? Or, like,
to preface that, we have
not actually, like, we honestly haven't done any, like, thing that bad, but it was just like,
just to preface that, 'cause
yeah,
the way you're going about it, but
that's
yeah.
real, 'cause the way it's said, it's true. Yeah, I hear
sorry. So yeah, I just want to start with, like, we are not perfect, but when you have the mindset of, like, purity is just, it's not like you have to do it, but it's like you want to do it. You want to do it because you want to be pure with Jesus and you want your relationship to succeed. It's not just, I'm not going to have sex. Like, that's not what purity is. Purity is a heart posture. Purity is a lifestyle. Like, it's not just, like, sexual acts and things like that. Like, purity is even, like, in your mindsets. Like, what are you watching? What music are you listening to? What are you thinking about? What are you dreaming about? Like, all those things, I think, go into it. And so we've been learning that 3.5 years dating, and then once we got into engagement, I think it made it even more real, and we're like, we want to be even more pure and more careful, you know, just putting kind of up, like, when you're bowling, putting up, like, the guardrails, almost be like, okay, now we have an angle now, like, we know when we're ending, like, let's be even more, like, careful, boundaries, adamant about things, because, like, we're not gonna mess up, you know. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
Shifting the mindset of purity, instead of it being boundaries, shifting it to be, like, looking at it as, like, an opportunity, just helps. Just because it's like, you look at purity as, like, boundaries, like, oh, can't do this, can't do this, can't do that. It's like, it's all negatives, essentially. You look at it. So look at it as an opportunity. I can't do this because it allows me to do X and Y. Allows me to get closer to the person in any other aspects. Like, just shifting the mindset and focus on it, I feel like, is really helpful.
Yeah.
Because purity's good, yes, but I feel like it definitely just the boundaries of it gets like a negative connotation just because like, oh, can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, whatever, you know what I mean? And just shifting the mindset of it, I think is just, it's not, I can't do this, it's, oh, I can't do this because I get the opportunity to do whatever else.
Yeah, like, oh, I can't do like this like thing with my partner. Okay, we get to play a board game, or we get to like talk about something, we get to do something. Like, intimacy is not just sexual, it's like about so much more than that. So I think what you said is a really good point, Austin, and just
That's so good. So good. Okay, and what's the difference between dating and engagement? What differences have you noticed?
I think the biggest thing for me with engagement has been like starting to think about the mindset of like like especially financially. So like whenever I make like a bigger financial decision, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, we're not one yet, so it's not like he has like say all, but it's like, hey, this is gonna affect us, you know, if I'm taking out this loan or if I'm paying like for something that's expensive. So this is going to affect possibly like our future marriage. What are your thoughts on this? Like bringing him into those conversations and him bringing me into those. So things like that, just already starting to think about the we type of
shifting
things.
the mindset from me to we. That's the
Before
biggest
you're
change.
married, because otherwise you're going to walk into marriage and then you're going to be thinking about you all the time. Then you're going to be like, oh crap, how do I,
You have to flip the switch like that.
you know? So it's nicer if you have like that engagement period to kind of start flowing into it. Obviously it's very different.
And you guys weren't like that in dating? Like me, we, or...
In certain aspects, yes. But like, especially in spiritual aspects, we're definitely more so me. Just because we weren't one yet. So like intertwining, like, God forbid, like, we would broke up or something, we wouldn't have those ties of like spiritually we and like just focusing on we. I mean, yeah, financially, like if we made big choices, like I'd always like let her know, but it wasn't like if she said, hey, you can't buy that or you can't do this. It was never like no. It was like, I don't think you should, or like, I'm a very spendy person, so I like spending money.
I'm a very not spendy person.
But it's more so, like she said, shifting it from me to we in just the mindset of it is like, hey, this is really going to affect us now because we're engaged. We are going to be one person. Like, we're going to have one income source. Like, not income source, but we're going to have like one income. So it's going to affect both of us. So yeah, I'd say the biggest shift was just looking at it as a more so like, as like a we
Team.
perspective. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, engagement, how has that been more than anything else that's been different from dating? Or things people should think of?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. You said this, you whispered this earlier, just like enjoying the process of it. Like, it is different, and like you get to do like a lot of fun things. You get to go like look at venues together, you get to like try your catering together, you get to go meet with your florist, like all these things. Like, enjoy it, let it be fun, like have a good time. Like, it doesn't need to be stressful if you don't want it to be. And that's just us going back to saying like, don't rush, like take it slow, like have a year-long engagement if it's possible, if that's what you can do, and like enjoy it. Otherwise you're just like rushing through all of it and then like you miss it. Same thing with like the wedding day. I've heard from so many women, like you just rush through everything and then you forget, or like you miss all like the little details that you spent a year planning. So just like slowing down and like enjoying it, enjoying the process, I think is really important. And, like, there's a timeline now, like there's an end goal, so that's different than when dating. You don't really,
no,
you talk about it, you know, you talk about the timeline. We talked about the timeline. It was not the timeline I thought, you know, like, so, you know, you never know. So yeah, I think that's also a shift, is the timeline.
Closing this out, what advice would you give? A last piece of nugget of information for anyone watching or listening?
I touched on it a little, like very briefly in the beginning about values, and just like how I said, like we went to the same church, we like knew each other, had like the same values pretty much, but that we still are like very different from each other. So just kind of touching on that when you're like looking for somebody, whether it's just dating or dating for marriage or anything like that. I think especially as Christians, it's good to know that you have like the same value system. Like, we both believe in Jesus, we believe in everything that the Bible says, we believe in the Holy Spirit, we like have the same kind of like political like beliefs, not that's that important, but like we like on the big things we stand like in the same area. Like we know where we stand with kids, we know where we stand with family, we know where we stand with marriage, like the like really big important things. Like yeah, maybe there's few things here and there that we don't agree on, but they're not like significant enough that they like would hinder our relationship. Like we're still two very different people, and we're allowed to have different values and like viewpoints on things. So when you're looking for somebody, I think my advice would just be like the big things are really important, but like the little mini details about something, not everything needs to be the same. Like don't marry somebody that is like a replica of you. Like you don't want to date like your clone. I mean, maybe you do, but I feel like I could never date myself. I don't know how he puts up with me. Like I am a handful. So I would not be able to handle another me. Yeah.
For a long time, I thought I wanted to date another me.
Really?
Till I kind of did, and I was like, "We're fighting. We're fighting for attention."
Yeah.
For me, mine's directed towards people like looking for a relationship or looking for people, and if you can only see the good in the other person and only see positive things, they're probably not the right person for you to date. If you just look at them and you're starstruck, oh, they're so pretty, they're so handsome, they do this well, they do that well.
There's no flaw in them.
Yeah, it's like if you can't pick out at least one thing wrong with someone, you're going to go into that relationship with the mindset that, oh, everything's going to be perfect, lovey-dovey, we're never going to fight. And then the first time you have a disagreement, your expectations, everything are going to just crumble.
Yeah.
And you're going to be, oh, is this the right person? You're going to second guess yourself. And just going into it expecting to never fight is never healthy, because disagreements are healthy. Having disagreements are healthy. I'd say even arguments are healthy. It's just the way you go about them, the way you have those disagreements, the way you have those arguments, the way you have those conversations, is what makes it healthy or not.
Yeah, can I add on to that point too just a little bit? Also, if like you are like in the process of dating somebody and you think that like everything is perfect about them, they're probably not sharing all
There's
of them.
something they're
There's something
hiding.
that's another point I feel like off of that, because if like you're not telling me anything like
Negative.
messy about your life, you know, like you're not telling me everything, because we're all flawed people. So I think that's another point onto yours, but same advice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you guys are on this podcast.
Yeah.
You have so much wisdom. Thank you for sharing with us your story and journey. I hope that people feel inspired, and remember that as you're listening to this podcast, that you get to choose the partner that you want to choose, but God also being at the center really leads to some really cool stories.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for being an example today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Fun. Definitely.
We love you.
So excited.